In this video, I'm going to talk about the Accelerated Graphics Port, otherwise known as AGP. Now, a lot of you are saying, what is an Accelerated Graphics Port? I've never even heard of it. Well, if you own Windows Vista, you probably haven't. But if you own Windows XP or Windows 2000, you probably have. You see, older motherboards had these slots, and the newer ones have PCI Express slots. Well, what was the purpose of these accelerated graphics ports and the accelerated graphics cards that went into these ports? Well, eons and eons ago, when computers first came out, they had monochrome monitors and EGA monitors, and these monitors were not very graphic intensive. So anytime the graphics were needed, they could just tap into the motherboard RAM and then generate the graphics. Well, then came along the VGA monitor and the Super VGA monitor, and these monitors were very graphic intensive. So they started snatching up RAM off the motherboard right and left. Well, when they started snatching up all that RAM, the motherboard couldn't give any RAM to the operating system or to any applications program, so eventually the computer just crashed. And that became a problem. So these wonderful computer guys, they came up with an accelerated graphics port, and they placed it right above the PCI slots. And they made these accelerated graphics cards to be placed into these ports, and on these cards was a graphics chip and separate RAM that the graphics chip could use in order to generate graphics on your computer. Well, since the graphics chip was using the graphics RAM instead of the RAM that was found on the motherboard, it freed up all the RAM on the motherboard to be used by the operating system and by application programs. And so therefore, your computer ran much, much better. Now, this idea has been accelerated since then, and now we have PCI Express slots and PCI Express boards. And they function very similar to what the accelerated graphics port did. But they're more advanced, and they're a little more expensive, that kind of thing, and I could go yada 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 on. But the point is that the accelerated graphics port was the first generation of graphics cards that had their own RAM, so that they didn't use the RAM on the motherboard. And now that you know this, I'm going to cover a different computer topic in a future video, so stay tuned.